Game of Thrones. It's quite unconventional that in a formal educational setting like this, one engages in a talk about Game of Thrones. But when this topic was first presented to me, I couldn't help but think of a particular episode of this popular series which someone brought to my attention. Mom, I promise I haven't watched it. Anyways, back to the point. Essentially, throughout the show, all we heard a character named Hodor say the entire time was his own name, Hodor, without ever knowing why. But then we discover that when one of the characters, Bran, traveled back in time and needed to be saved, he seized control of a young Hodor's mind and asked him to hold the door. Hold the door, hold the door, Hodor. By seizing control of Hodor's mind in the present just before his death, Bran messed up Hodor's mind decades in the past. Or, to save Bran in the future, Hodor's entire past became monosyllabic. A fascinating and intriguing spiel, isn't it? The idea that Hodor's future was responsible for his past is quite compelling and entertaining, but also complete fiction. So what? Literature has the liberty to play with the past, present, and future, or rather time, the way it plays with goblins, jinns, and unicorns. But do we have the same liberty given to us in the real world? I think we can explore this a bit further. On the basis of our current limited knowledge of time and space, and our limited ability to manipulate either, I think that the idea that the future can influence the past is as elusive as the equally appealing idea of time travel. The concept of retrocausality has often been used as an explanation and proof of this statement. But I don't think that's such a shaky science, which a majority of scientists regard as pseudoscience, can be taken as definitive evidence. Not only is the information about retrocausality minimal and confusing, but also nothing can be said for sure about it yet, as it's such a young science. So let's take away the scientific limits of such a theory and approach it through the eyes of the beings who experience these past, presents, and futures. Let's look at it through a human lens. Spirituality is an accumulation of humankind's beliefs and faiths and is one of the most competent ways to judge how we perceive time. In Buddhist philosophy, for example, Buddhists don't consider time as something that exists. Buddhists, with the emphasis on meditation, have long regarded time as an unspooling of the mind. They don't believe in anything permanent. And in fact, in Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, Shunryu Suzuki tells us, you may say, I must do something this afternoon, but actually, there is no this afternoon. At 1 o'clock, you will eat your lunch. To eat your lunch is itself 1 o'clock. Early Buddhist philosophy presented an empiristic and relativistic conception of time, meaning that time is based on what one experiences, while the Madhyamika's philosophy denied the existence of time altogether. Basically, the Buddhist belief is that the only time that matters is now, that is, the present. They don't believe in a past or a future, or often in the existence of time. All moments are but fleeting, and it is in these fleeting moments in which one lives. They consider the present time period the only thing we can influence. So at this point, I feel obligated to tell you that I, shockingly, don't think that the future can influence the past. But then I think a majority of you would tend to share my opinion on this. And if that's the case, why are we still asking ourselves this question? And while obviously it's due to all the recent developments and questions raised in quantum theory and physics, I think this question has been around for a while. The concept of karma has often been used as evidence of this statement, in the sense that based on what we think our future will hold, we tend to change our actions now. Because technically, you could consider the present the past of the future. But then again, isn't that true for basically anything? If I'm studying today, it's with the intention that because I hadn't studied all month, I need to start studying today in order to pass my exam. And this is more of a hindsight bias, like when one claims to have predicted an event before it occurred. And I would just like to point out that there's a significant distinction between the future influencing the past directly versus the future influencing one's perspective of the past. Similarly, people often use predictions as a way to justify this statement, in the sense that how business companies often change and formulate their policies based on future economic market predictions. And yeah, to a certain extent, that might be true. But we can never predict the future accurately. Just look at the case of COVID-19. Who could have seen that coming? So based on all of this, I feel quite confident when I say that I don't think the future can influence the past. And I've already explained to spirituality now why I oppose this statement. So let's take a 180 and turn to a rather unconventional but highly reliable source of information, mathematics. And it does pain me that mathematics is actually useful in my life. Anyways, in mathematics, the concept of time is explored quite uniquely. And in fact, algebra has been called the science of pure time. In Time, a Dual of Space, Schopenhauer has presented his space and time dualism. To paraphrase his words, he stated that time has three distinct divisions: the past, present, and future. Time has no permanence, but passes the moment it is present. And time is not simultaneous, but successive. Essentially, Schopenhauer has highlighted how time is distinctly divided and occurs not all at once, but in a flow, moving from the past to the present and to the future. His belief of time having no permanence further supports the notion that it is only the present that matters. The past is done and the future is undetermined, but the present is the one thing we can change, and once it passes, it's done as well. Similarly, these three distinct divisions follow a strict pattern of existence, and this pattern in turn helps in the existence of mathematics. So even in mathematics, we can easily infer that it is only the present that matters. Now, I dropped maths in grade 11 for a reason, so we shall also drop this topic and head on over and view the discussion through another enthralling viewpoint: mythology, specifically Greek mythology. Now, for any of you who have ever read or studied mythology, or even Percy Jackson for that matter, you would be aware of the three fates in Greek mythology. The three fates are portrayed as three old spinsters, weaving the thread of life between them. And often, one or all of them are seen writing in the book of fate. These three fates have in hand the destiny of an individual, and as they wish, they cut it short. These three goddesses distribute an allotment of misery and suffering among the individuals, but mainly they determine their lifespan, their destiny, and all the events that will occur in it. So essentially, the three fates act as confirmation of the idea of a pre-established destiny of an individual. Nothing a person says or acts like can change his future, his fate. Why? Even the king of all gods, Zeus, is powerless in front of them. During the Trojan War, he is aware that his beloved son Sarpedon will die at the hands of Patroclus. Yet, he doesn't wield any power to save him, or rather, change his fate. Similarly, before the duel between Hector and Achilles, Zeus weighs their destinies on a golden scale and learns the outcome. However, he could only learn their outcome as opposed to having any influence or control over it. So no matter which viewpoint you look at this multifaceted concept of time from, through a mythological lens, through a spiritualistic lens, or through a mathematical lens, we come to a simple conclusion. The present is the only thing we can influence and the only thing we have the power to change. The past and future are not relevant in this moment, the present moment. This is the only time that matters, and life can only take place in the present moment. If we lose the present moment, we lose life. Thank you.